Welcome to the Strategic Planning course by BSC Designer. In this video, we'll focus on a quick overview of the strategic planning process. I'm sure you have heard about the different tools that are related to strategic planning. Mission and vision statements, strategy maps, key performance indicators, various business frameworks like SWOT, Pastel, Balanced Scorecard, and OKR. Let's start discussing strategic planning and see how the different tools fit into the process. To illustrate the key steps of strategic planning, I will use this diagram. What theory stands behind the strategic planning process that we are going to talk about? As explained in Strategy Safari, there are at least 10 different schools of strategy. Moreover, every organization creates its own approach to strategic planning. Some prefer to focus on the Kaplan and Norton Balanced Scorecard framework. Some try objectives and key results, OKR. Some combine many different frameworks and, as a result, create their own unique approach. This diagram is based on our experience in helping clients to formulate and execute the strategies. The idea behind this diagram was to give our clients a roadmap for strategic planning. We were looking for something that would give a sense to all disconnected ideas and different frameworks in the domain of strategic planning. What's the logic of this diagram? It is divided into 5 steps. With each step, we're progressing in strategic planning by adding building blocks of strategy and defining strategy with even more detail. We have separate video lessons where we talk about each of the steps. In this video, we'll do a brief overview of the 5 steps of strategic planning. Step 1. Definition of strategy attributes. This step is a level of highest abstraction. Here we define strategy attributes, mission and vision statements, core values. Some business professionals ignore this step, as it looks like it doesn't add any value to the real strategic planning. I think it makes sense to invest some time in discussing strategy attributes with your team. As it often happens, the real value is not in having some results on paper, but in the discussion itself. Formulating something that sounds good, then revising it because it appeared that it has nothing to do with reality, and finally formulating something that actually resonates with your organization. Step 2, formulation. In the step 2, we formulate the strategy. What ideas are converted into something more specific, into some specific hypothesis. That's where we'll use various frameworks for strategic planning. In this step, we'll briefly discuss all those frameworks using this comparative table. What framework do we recommend? It depends on your challenges. Most likely, you will combine several of them. What's important is that you need to understand the application area of the framework and how its results fit into the strategic planning. Step 3, description. In the previous step, we formulated the strategy, but it needs to be properly described for effective strategy execution. Think about composing music. After Mozart composed a sonata, he needed to put it on paper using musical notation. Otherwise, we would not have a chance to enjoy it today. A strategy is similar. After it was formulated in step 2, it started existing in the best minds of your organization. But it is not enough for effective strategy execution. If you want your team members to enjoy the strategy as much as your strategic team do, you need to properly describe it. Obviously, musical notation won't help us much in this case, so we'll use different tools: strategy maps, business goals, key performance indicators, and strategic initiatives. With this step, we're moving to a lower level of abstraction. Our goals become more specific when we define the way to quantify and measure them. We understand the strategy better by defining the cause and effect relationship between the goals. We note down the rationale for the goals to have a full picture of the context behind them. Step 4, cascading. In the previous step, we described the strategy. Can we now share it with our team? Not yet. While the most important themes were defined, it's not yet ready for execution. The high-level strategy won't make a lot of sense for lower levels of your organization. We need to understand how the different business units of our organization will contribute to executing this strategy. From the diagram of the strategic process, you might have the impression that strategic planning is top to bottom, that the CEO is mandating goals to other departments. That's one of the possible cases, but it is far from being the best one. In the lesson for this step, we'll discuss various cases of cascading. What approach is recommended? It depends on your organization. I'd said that it is bidirectional, with the cascading by the business goals. Step 5, execution. In step 5, the strategy is ready for execution. We start working on the strategic initiatives, track their implementation with the key performance indicators, report to the stakeholders, and learn something new along the way. In that step, we'll talk about the best reporting and performance measurement practices. We created this video with the users of our software in mind, and I anticipate a question: how does this diagram fit into the software? Actually, the software was built to automate this diagram. Let's have a quick look at the interface of the software. I switch to the settings strategy. As you can see on this step, we support the step 1 of strategic planning, a possibility to define such strategy attributes as mission, vision, and core values. Below the strategy attributes, we can find strategic themes that belong to the step 2 strategy description. We also mentioned that in step 2, the step of strategy description, we can use different frameworks. In this sense, BSC Designer is mostly focused on the Balanced Scorecard framework. Also, you can create a new scorecard following other frameworks. To do this, I go to My Scorecard section, select New Scorecard, More Templates, and scroll down to the Framework section in the list of templates. Each of the template has a link to the how-to article. The step 3, strategy description. That's where the software will save you a lot of time and effort. The tool helps you to manage strategy maps with business goals and KPIs. The leading and lagging indicators are supported natively. There are initiatives with all the details like text fields to explain the rationale, possibility to specify owners and assign budgets and timelines. Step 4 of the diagram, cascading. The software allows you to connect different scorecards by business goals and KPIs. Finally, step 5 of the diagram is execution. In this case, the software helps your team to be more productive by validating achievements with KPIs, generating performance reports, analyzing performance data, and finding interesting trends. At the end of the video, I'd like to share a practical challenge with you. Describe the strategic planning process that exists today in your organization. Compare and contrast this process with the diagram explained in this video. What parts are missing? What parts are similar? What parts are most confusing among the members of the team? What are the unique features of your process? List the terminology that is used in your organization in the context of strategic planning. If there were an agreement about the terminology among the members of your team, these are the practical challenges that I suggest you to focus in the end of lesson 1.